Beautiful ministry this is, just to bring people together from different religious traditions, honoring all of them, gleaning from each of them. I'm not going to do a long introduction, but I just want to say that wild spirituality, the way I'm understanding it and receiving it, I guess, is something that no matter what your religious tradition is something to deepen into. It's not a different religion. It's not a different way necessarily of doing religion, but it is something to include within whatever your tradition is. So I think I would just want to start with reading the prologue to my book called Church of the Wild, How Nature Invites Us into the Sacred. I think that gives a bit of an idea of what this is about. This is a story, a movement about a land where the trees talk and the waters croon and the people fall in love with birds who love them back. This is a story about an enchanted forest hiding in plain sight, invisible, until somehow the veil drops and what was unseen can suddenly be seen. You may catch a glimpse when you cross the threshold on the far edge of the abandoned field, or when just for a blinking instant, you notice how the brambles of the blackberry bush connect you to everything. Our ancestors knew this, and they reminded one another around their fires that they belonged to a great web of life. They were called into wilderness by a voice that spoke in words planted silently in their hearts, by the voices of the cedar trees, the lilies, the desert sands. Sacred voices tucked into pockets of the wind. Some of these ancestors were called out of Egypt, out of oppressive systems that didn't acknowledge their lives as valuable, called into the wilderness to listen, to prepare, to be tested and encouraged and strengthened. There, the wild creatures of the night, the fiery bushes and the cool streams, and the manna that fell from the sky reminded the people of their true identity. Once upon a time, all humans knew that their lives, their food, their survival, their sense of meaning and kinship with God or the gods was connected with all their relations: the hawks, the soil, the ferns, the mosquitoes. Like all the other wild creatures, they belonged to the land and they knew it. They were part of a grand conversation, a relationship of reciprocity and respect, connecting them with all the other beings and elements of life. But there came a time when some of the people could no longer hear the conversation. An elixir fell over the poppy fields like Dorothy entering Oz, causing them to fall asleep. The wax in their ears became hardened, and their hearts pretended that they were happier controlling the world than loving it. They rushed right past the burning bushes on the way to capital I importance, missing the message of the doe hiding in plain sight with her newborn fawn. They packed the bodies of sacred forest cathedrals into trucks and shipped them to mills. They forgot that the thrush song spelled out warnings and wisdom in octaves. Disconnected little by little, their voices went missing in the symphony of aliveness. The songs of the wild god cascading through the trees no longer guided their lives, and a deep loneliness sank down upon the people like a heavy fog that nobody could see. But friends, you know this deep in your heart. The time has come to lift that veil of fog and return to intimate relationship with the living world. More and more of us are taking our place once again as full participants in the web of life, which we remember is held together by love. So there are no magic words to incant, no spiritual laws to memorize, no ruby slippered heels to click 3 times. You don't need to read 100 new eco-theology books or leave the church or become an animist or a pantheist, but you certainly can if you want to. You simply need to learn how to listen and how to allow your heart to be broken, just like you do every time you fall in love, because the holy is in your place too. You open the gates to this enchanted land, your home, with hands muddied from the soil outside your house and a raw, scabby, and unprotected heart. You enter naked and brave. So that's the introduction to the book and my work in restoring basically sacred relationship with Earth. Of all the layers of things that we need to be doing to mitigate, to prepare, to handle, to limit the destruction of our ecosystem that is Earth. I think at the core of that is a need to shift our spiritual relationship with the rest of the natural world, that we are part of nature, that all beings are inherently valued and inherently sacred. And so, and I don't know if any of you have felt at times, but I suspect you have, that you are standing on holy ground. Even though most people in our culture have forgotten how to honor that as part of our daily life and our religious practices, because we've been disconnected for too long and on purpose. But without going into all of that in this half an hour, to honor the land and the waters and the beings of our place, of our home, is an ancient spiritual practice. It's one that our ancestors, all of our ancestors, practiced throughout almost all of human history. It's only in like the last 0.1% of our species' existence that that disconnection has been so severe. And that's the time we're living in right now. And as Margaret said, today is December 22nd, the day after the winter solstice in the Northern Hemisphere. And I looked it up, and the daylight today, where I am at least, is approximately 4 seconds longer than it was yesterday. And little by little, here we are. We move now from the darkness back into the light. It is a cycle. But for the most part, in our culture of artificial light and artificial intelligence, our celebrations and our rituals around solstice and Christmas are kind of disconnected from the deepest reasons for this celebration of this time. We may bring spruce trees into our homes and decorate them with lights or gather around a solstice campfire, but I would guess that most of us feel pretty disconnected from the ancient and most necessary need for ritual at this time of year, which is a deep reconnection with Earth and our collective and shared cyclical changes that happen every year. And so I'm encouraging us to reestablish and deepen into rituals of reconnection, which basically is the practices of religion. Like Margaret, I love the etymology of words, and the word religion means again, which means again, do it again, and legios in Greek, or legion, means like ligament. It's a connection. And so religion itself is a reconnection. It's this necessary and ancient human practice. So it makes me assume that the tendency of humans is to disconnect. And that's just part of the human story. And so religion, that ritualistic practice of reconnection, can be traced to the earliest of our Paleolithic ancestors. And so returning to relationship with the earth, with the sacred, with one another, has been done throughout all of human history. And it's done a lot by honoring the changes of the seasons, on ritualizing darkness and light and death and rebirth. And it's foundationally human. And so wild spirituality, which is practiced within any religious tradition, is the practice of restoring our wild humanity. Sorry about the airplane. Wait a second. Wild spirituality is that practice of restoring our wild humanity that's in relationship with the whole vast ecosystem of life. Because ritual really is a practice of restoring sacred relationship, restoring. So what began as sacred rituals to honor the shift of darkness toward light, or the coming of the baby Jesus to bring light at a time of personal and collective darkness. Those who become family rituals are rituals of family nostalgia often. But as we enter more and more into this time of ecological and cultural decline, it's becoming urgent for those of us who are on this call today. It's becoming urgent for us who have heard some version of this call of the sacred wild to restore rituals of holy reconnection to earth and to one another into our particular family celebrations at this time of year. You know, for example, it's easy to feel nostalgic and sort of Christmassy. I was in Target the other day and it was chestnuts roasting on an open fire. But what we don't really connect, we can kind of like skip over. But to connect even with this song, that when this song came out in 1946, Nat King Cole released this song, but the idea by then, by 1946, the idea of roasting chestnuts over an open fire was already a nostalgic story. By then, nearly 4 billion chestnut trees in the eastern US had already died in a tragic plight that was caused by human import of a disease that these hardy trees had no natural protection from. The trees moved from a keystone species into a nearly extinct species in only 40 years. And keystone species are those ones that the entire ecosystem depends on within a forest. And at that time, nearly 200 million acres of forest. The chestnuts, as well as all the species that depended on them, were devastated. So it sounds kind of like a killjoy to name this reality in the midst of the season. But this is precisely the role of ritual, to experience and celebrate and honor life as it actually is, to honor the darkness, to honor the mystery of life, the ubiquitous need for sleep and for rest, and the role of winter, and the role and importance even of death and devastation in what life means, in what evolving life means. And so ritual isn't just a way to feel uplifted. You know, our ancestors didn't just dance around the solstice fire for a family festivity. Winter was a precarious time of unknown survival. Do we have enough food or enough fuel for warmth? Will all of my children make it through the winter, the darkness? But for the most part, we as a culture are fully disconnected from that reality that we actually do depend on Earth and her cyclical journey from abundance to scarcity, and that is the pathway to new life. And this disconnection is mortally dangerous and needs to be corrected through ritual presence at this time of year. So how we imagine rituals how can we imagine rituals through an eco-spiritual lens? We can adorn the light. We can adorn the dark with the light. And so it's not just, yay, it's starting to get light again. It's that the darkness is being celebrated with an adornment of light. For them, Wendell Berry writes about this in his poem. The poem's called To Know the Dark. He says, to go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. So solstice isn't just a positional change of the earth outside of us. Earth's cyclical rebalancing of light and dark invites us to tune into what needs rebalancing within us every year, remembering that we are connected with the turning of the season. And that invites us to rejoin a sacred rhythm that we always share with life. We just have been sort of disconnected for too long. So even for 4 seconds that it's lighter today. And throughout the rest of winter and spring, the days are going to grow lighter at an increasing space. But we want to ask ourselves, how can we, in our context, in our place, with our families and our communities, not only celebrate 4 extra seconds of light, but create spiritual practices that are aligned with our particular religions and rhythms and places, so that we can celebrate the darkness and the unknowing and the mysteries. How can we restore the celebrations and rituals of our ancestors in a way that's life-giving to us today? So these are the questions we want to bring to our place and to our land. How do I do this? The ways are individual, and they're connected, and they're ways of reconnecting not only with one another, but to our place and to Earth. And so, and really restoring relationship with the cycles of reality and the cycles of season is an act of decolonization. It's us returning to intimacy with the land and the waters and the creatures of our place. And it's a spiritual practice that helps us shift our worldview and restore our sacred relationship with the land. So for the last few minutes, I just want to invite us to imaginally enter into a practice that I encourage you to do within your place. It's basically just approaching your place with reverence and with awe. And so reverence is just slowing down. Maybe it's the paths that you always walk, even just down the street to a park. But it's instead of walking for just to appreciate the land or just to get in your steps for the day, it's a slowing down, and it's an intentionality, and it's what we call in the Center for Wild Spirituality in our Seminary of the Wild, wandering. It's the core practice of availing yourself to the holy wild. And to wander with reverence, you allow yourself to look at the world with softened eyes, so that you no longer see the trees and the mountains and the birds as objects of beauty or utility, but as kindred kin who you are in relationship with, living where you live. And so reverence, approaching reverently, allows you to behold the trees and the waters and the tiny ants as their own separate beings. It's an act that asks you to shift so that you can really see the other as who they are. And so acknowledging them as you go as individuals who are as concerned about their own survival and enjoyment of life as you are about yours. So we're just going to go on a little sacred saunter, imaginally together the next few minutes. So I invite you to feel comfortable in your place. Take a few just deep breaths, acknowledging that you are located in a particular sacred and holy place, whether you're in a city or the mountains or a suburb, that we belong. We belong. We are part of nature. So imagine a trail that's near you, or a place that you like to walk or wander. Maybe it's even just going into your backyard. Imagine yourself choosing to walk there now. Imagine yourself on that path. Take a deep breath. Let that place know that you are intending to enter into relationship, to listen, and to meet and greet and praise the other beings who share your place. And as you're walking, you see that there's a log that has fallen during the night over the path. You recognize that this is a threshold. You're going to cross this threshold with a prayer. Your hands to your heart. You say in a prayer, I'm crossing over this log into an enchanted land. I'm going to release all my distracted, self-focused thoughts and enter into intentional, loving relationship with this place and with the holy that embodies all of it. going to enter in with intention to enter into sacred conversation with all that is here. And with gratitude, stepping over that log. And now as you follow that trail, the colors seem brighter. The bird sounds, you can tell, are connected with you. They're responding to your presence there. You hear the plains in the distance. You know that that's part of the story too. And you enter into a place you'd never noticed before. It's asking you to go off the trail. Take a few steps. What do you see there? Who is going to introduce themselves to you? Even as you introduce yourselves to this place and these beings, praising them for who they are, recognizing that there are threads connecting you and them that maybe you'd never seen before. Now you can see them. Recognizing even that the threads are glistening with holiness, that it is the relationship, the connection, where the holy presence can be experienced and felt. And you're wandering without an agenda, just greeting each being and each stone and each tree with praise that's particular to them. Wild ones choose to make themselves known. So who is coming to greet you? Robin Wall Kimmerer talks about how to fall in love with Earth is a bit of a misnomer because it isn't a one-way street. That when you fall in love with a little tiny bird that visits your backyard all the time, that little bird is also falling in love with you. How odd that is to our Western mind. Who is choosing to reveal themselves to you? At some point, as you're wandering, you'll be compelled to and drawn to a particular place or a particular tree or a particular being. Stop there and ask permission to rest there with them, to regard them as sacred beings, and to allow them to regard you as a sacred being. And when you are out in your actual place, you might want to wait there. Allow your racing thoughts to settle down so that you're not hearing what's inside your head as much as you are hearing what's outside, and listening even longer so that you can hear the voice of the sacred that flows in and between all things. And after a while, you feel it's time to head back. You feel drawn to leave a gift for this other, maybe a bit of your hair, maybe a song, maybe some of your water in your water bottle as a gift of gratitude. And then bow when you leave with reverence. Come back down that same pathway till you get to that same log. And before you cross over, you turn around, open your arms, and bow in reverence. This place indeed is holy, and I didn't see it. Crossing over the tree branch, the threshold, you come back and to open your eyes and see these little rectangles, how all of our places and our hearts are actually connected. And that is a gift of the holy. So I leave you at this time with a benediction. May the spirit of the abundant earth awaken you to live in the knowledge that you are of the earth. You are from the earth, you are returning to the earth, and you are loved by the earth, even as you love her. Blessings of the earth, of the great conversation that holds together all things and all beings. May that be upon you with boundless gratitude. Amen.